It's Friday, the 24th of May, 2024. Welcome to the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed, where we give you the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael.
Sean, we've got to get through 5 stories in 5 minutes, so let's get going. Story number 1, Anglo American has rejected a $73.9 billion offer from BHP, but has left the door open for further talks, granting the big Australian a 1-week extension to come up with an improved bid.
Yes, and that would be a 4th bid. Anglo American told the London Stock Exchange early yesterday morning Australian time that BHP had this week made a 3rd non-binding and conditional takeover bid that was a 9% premium to the 2nd bid last week. But it was based on the same structure that the Anglo board had previously rejected, including selling off some of the South African-based assets. British laws forced BHP to make a firm offer or abandon its bid, but Anglo's asked for a 1-week extension. Anglo's largest shareholder, the South African state-owned Public Investment Corporation, appears to support the Anglo board at this point, but it will come down to price, always does. BHP is obviously very keen, and the Anglo board is squeezing as much as it can, as it should.
Sean, what's going to happen here? Will BHP actually get Anglo?
Well, it's got until May 29 to lob a binding offer, and basically that means 7 days to convince Anglo to accept the deal. The issue, the Anglo board has said it's an onerous, highly complex deal. BHP disagrees with that. BHP reckons it's made progress, just not enough, and management says it won't bid any higher. The key issue is the divestment of controlling stakes in 2 Johannesburg-listed mining companies, Kumba Iron Ore and Anglo American Platinum. The deadline extension is a positive for BHP. Basically, it's got a nibble, but it hasn't quite caught the fish yesterday. BHP's share price closed down about 2.5% yesterday.
Sean, story number 2. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has launched a national battery strategy to help fund a locally made batteries industry to support a renewable energy grid.
The Prime Minister says Australian firms have competitive advantages in cleaner, safer, more cyber-secure batteries adapted to local conditions. In last week's budget, $523 million was allotted to the initiative. Now, the goal is that by 2035, Australia will be globally competitive in producing batteries with a focus on grid-level utility products and those powering businesses and households. Under the strategies, there are 5 key priorities. It's around manufacturing, knowledge and skills, securing a supply line in global batteries, also around sustainability standards and circular economy, and bringing levels of government together.
Story number 3, Sean, Australia's 5 biggest banks would charge customers an extra $370 million in fees and interest rate increases if the government were to enforce a higher levy on them to keep rural banks funded and open, according to new estimates.
Costings come ahead of a Senate probe into the impact of branch closures on regional communities. Now, Senator Matt Canavan, the deputy leader of the Nationals in the upper house, asked about a 10% increase to the bank levy to fund community banks. It was costed by the Parliamentary Budget Office. According to media reports, the office said it would raise $496 million between now and 2027, but increased costs would mostly be passed on to bank customers. In fact, they said about 75% of that 496 would end up being passed on to bank customers. Of course, Commonwealth Bank, Westpac and National Australia Bank already have deals with Australia Post to push their branch network throughout regional Australia. ANZ doesn't. It says that Australia Post is too expensive.
Story number 4, Sean, the 2 cases of bird flu in Victoria, one in a child, have triggered fears that the virus could spread locally, disrupting the rural economy.
Australia is the only continent whose animals haven't been affected by the bird flu outbreak yet. This week, Australia reported its first human H5N1 bird flu case in a child infected after a trip to India. Fortunately, the child made a full recovery. A separate H7 bird flu strain was also detected at an egg farm near Melbourne. Victoria's Chief Health Officer, Claire Looker, said contact tracing had not uncovered any other transmissions. It's a bit of a concern, not just here, but overseas as well. In the state of Michigan in the US, bird flu has been spreading widely in cattle herds, while a dairy worker has also contracted the virus. There's been 8 human cases worldwide this year. Disease control regulators are calling on people with regular exposure to animals just to take precautions.
Story number 5, Sean, last one. The Brits are going to the polls on July 4 after Prime Minister Rishi Sunak announced a surprise election, though his chances of winning look a little slim.
Yes, he's at about 25-1, in fact, in a two-horse race. But Mr. Sunak hopes a 6-week campaign can bridge the 20 percentage point gap in opinion polls. He called the election outside 10 Downing Street, as is tradition, in the pouring rain, as is probably appropriate. Many Tory MPs are not happy with the announcement, suggesting Mr. Sunak should have waited until the economy was looking better. Divisions within the Conservatives, of course, are not unusual. His opponent this time round is Labor's Keir Starmer. I think we're going to hear a lot about Keir Starmer in the next few years. The last election was held in December 2019 when Boris Johnson was elected. He was forced out, too many COVID parties, replaced by Liz Truss. She lasted 49 days, although that it did include a disastrous economic recovery plan. Also, she holds the record for the shortest-serving British Prime Minister. Mr. Sunak took over in October 2022.
All right, there we go. The top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
It is Friday, the 24th of May, 2024. Remember to hit follow on the podcast. And if 5 minutes isn't enough, you can find our longer daily show called Fear and Greed wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed. Have a great day.